Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be giving you guys the remaining free agents that I think the Washington football team should sign, some guys that would fit some positions of need for the Washington football team. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, so help me get there and turn on your notifications. So let's get right into the video. Okay, so first let's start off with our cap situation. So currently we sit just under $21 million in cap space, but that is before the Curtis Samuel signing and, a couple other minor signings have been put in. I don't think the Curtis Samuel signing is going to be an 11 million cap hit. I think it's going to be under 10, definitely probably in that 5 to 7 range. So after that, we'll be at like 13 to 15-ish million dollars in cap space. We obviously we can do some things to create a little bit more, but we're likely not going to make any big name signings in the next few weeks unless the guy's taking a discount, because there's really not a great market. But we do have to fill a few positions. Tight end, we need some depth at that position. Sure, we can go and get someone in the draft, but I think at the very minimum, we need to get a very cheap veteran that can come in here and play. We still need to get some linebackers. That going to be addressed in the draft as well, but I think we need at least one more veteran. And then there's a couple other positions, could get some more cornerback depth, and maybe some, outside linebackers, someone that can come off the edge. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, we don't need a starter at that position. We need some depth. If Chase Young, Montez Sweat come out, we need someone that can take over for them for a few plays. So the first guy is a linebacker. This is probably the biggest name on this list, and it is KJ Wright, an outside linebacker, but also can play a little bit on the inside as well. Played 16 games for the Seahawks this year, 80 tackles, 2 sacks, 10 pass deflections, 1 interception. And I don't think he's going to get paid a bunch of money. All the remaining free agents, with, the exception of a few, I don't think they're going to be getting paid a bunch of money. I think this is a situation with KJ Wright where he's probably going to sign like a 1-year deal. That's what I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be relatively cheap compared to what we thought he was going to get entering free agency, and he would be a really solid veteran presence. Not necessarily a long-term option, but if you were to sign him, you could draft someone and help, he could help develop him. I mean, he's been in the league since 2011 and has had, a really good career for the Seahawks, and he could help develop that young linebacker, whether it be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Micah Parsons, if he somehow drops, Zaven Collins, Nick Bolton, Jabril Cox, any of those guys, it's better to have a veteran that can help develop him. So KJ Wright, if we can get him for cheap, maybe a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, I would definitely do it. Solid in the run game, okay in coverage, and would be, a good veteran linebacker to add to the team. He is a little bit old, but like I said, it doesn't have to be a long-term deal. So the next guy is another guy on defense, and it's a linebacker, Eric Wilson. From the Vikings, he, would be a solid option, still relatively young, only been in the league for 4 years. This past year had over 100 tackles, and, tackles don't, of course, really mean much. It's, how were you in the run game? How was your coverage? Because we've seen Bostic has gotten a couple seasons with over 100 tackles. So just because you have 100 tackles, that doesn't mean you had a great season. Had about 3 sacks, so he can come off the edge a little bit. 8 pass deflections and 3 interceptions. So he would be a solid young guy to add to the team. Still would need to address that position in the draft, but I do think we need to add another linebacker in free agency to compete for a starting spot. I like Holcomb, but besides that, I'm not a huge fan of Bostic, and David Mayo's an okay depth signing, and who knows what he can do, but would rather have someone else. I think Eric Wilson. And there really aren't any great linebackers in free agency right now. The top linebackers got signed really before free agency even started, and then the next tier guys already got signed. So those guys are would be good signings. Quan Alexander would also be intriguing. Okay, and now an offensive player, and this is the only offensive player on this video today, just because we don't really need a receiver that much, or there's really not many intriguing options. I'd rather go to the draft where there's a cheaper option, and tackle, again, not many intriguing options. But I like Darren Fells as a backup tight end. He's a solid backup tight end that could play for you, a solid pass catching threat. If you look at the past 2 years with the Texans, 2019, 340 yards and 7 touchdowns. And this past season, 312 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, not insane stats, but as a guy that can be a backup, he can be a solid pass catching threat. You can do some 2 tight end sets, and he can get in the end zone. I mean, he 11 touchdowns in the last 2 years is pretty impressive. He's been healthy pretty much his whole career, so I would really like this signing. There's really not many great tight ends out there. Trey Burton, there's a couple others, but I would be intrigued with Darren Fells as a backup. You can get him for really, really cheap, and I think he could come in there and contribute. I mean, he averaged 15 yards a catch this year, which is very, very impressive. He's a good red zone threat, 11 total touchdowns in the last 2 years. I think it would be a good signing to pair with Logan Thomas, and then you can still address the position in the draft. Let's move on to my 4th player, and this is someone we all know and love, Ryan Kerrigan. And he hasn't gotten a lot of interest from a lot of teams, and he is still unsigned. And John Keim reported that we could re-sign him, maybe possibly after the draft, if he hasn't gotten signed. And I would really, really like this. We still need someone. Like I said, if Chase Young or Montez Sweat, if they somehow get hurt, or if they need to take a breather for a few plays, I think Ryan Kerrigan could come in and do the same thing he did last year. We want him to stay here, and if we can get him for cheap, if he doesn't get much interest, I would love to bring back Ryan Kerrigan and let him finish out his career in Washington, and maybe even let him get to that 100 sacks with the Washington football team in his career. That would be really, really nice, and it could also fill a need, and I think this would be a good signing. We get him for cheap, I think it would be great, and it would let him stay in DC. And the last signing, I don't know how realistic this is. Casey Hayward, who got released by the Chargers the other day. If there isn't a huge market for him, I think he would be a great cornerback for us to add. Again, it really depends on the price, but last year with the Chargers, 14 games, 1 interception, but he allowed less than 50% completion percentage, which is really, really impressive. So that's a guy to keep your eye out on. You could have him and William Jackson on the outside and Kendall Fuller in the slot, and then have Jimmy Moreland come in as depth, and that would be a really, really, really good cornerback room. I'm fine with how our room is right now, but if we want to roll with Jimmy Moreland, Kendall Fuller, and William Jackson, we still need to bring in some more depth. And Casey Hayward, if he came here, he would obviously be starting, but we still have some options, and cornerback depth is still a need in my opinion, but Casey Hayward wouldn't be depth. He would be one of our best corners, and that would be one of the best corner rooms in the NFL with Casey Hayward, Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, and even Jimmy Moreland. That would be an amazing group to pair with our D-line. So those are kind of my 5 guys. Could go tackle, Alejandro Villanueva, Russell Okung, but I think they're going to look at that in the draft rather than free agency. Let me know what you guys think about the 5 guys that I put out here. Which one intrigues you, and which guy did I miss that you think we should go ahead and sign? So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those post notifications so you never miss a video, and peace.